What's up, my friends? Griff and I are gonna break down our 3 to 4 favorite baits for the month of June and July. Now, these might not necessarily be the only lures that can work depending on where you are, but these are baits that we tend to throw a lot and we both enjoy throwing them. Is that a fair way of assessing it?
Yes.
I don't know how you enjoy throwing some of these that I see in your pile, but I'm excited to hear you talk about them.
Yeah.
So if you would like to see what real anglers and some other guys use in June and July, come along, let's have some fun. Welcome to the Hookup Tackle. Oh, what a stud.
Yeah. Look at that.
That was sick. Cheers, my friends. Happy Sunday. All right, guys, some breaking news. What's new this week at the Hookup Tackle?
What a beautiful post-spawn fish.
Look at that.
Look at that gut on that. That's a nice fish.
All right, welcome back, my friends. I am Ben with the Hookup Tackle, Tackle Taku on Instagram, being joined by my buddy Griff at G Sticks Bespoke on Instagram, and the master of nonsense himself, Jeffrey the King on Instagram. What's up, Jeff?
What's up, boys?
What's up, Griff?
What's up?
We are going to talk about our favorite baits to throw June and July.
Yes.
Do you like June and July?
They're hard months for me.
They get difficult,
Yeah,
right?
very
So
hard
what is it that makes it more difficult?
I think the fish are just in those crazy transitions, right? And then it's hot. So every little thing is, it plays with your emotions.
Yeah.
Especially if you're not getting bit. And then you're angry.
Right. Well, and there's a lot of times, we get a lot of shit about talking about fishing in cold weather, right?
Yeah.
Because when it drops below like 65 and we're like, oh, it's cold,
Yeah.
right? But the one thing that nobody can give us any shit about is we know how to fish in hot weather,
Yes.
right? So literally when it gets to July, like we were reminiscing yesterday and we were talking about running to the river, I'm like, bro, last July, Griff and I went, it was 122 degrees and we threw Ned rigs for 8 hours,
Yeah,
right?
that was terrible.
Remember that great day, Jeff?
No, I don't. I wipe that.
delete button, boop, boop, purge. So, there's just
Why did
something.
we do that?
I don't know why we did that, but we did it.
Why did we do that?
There's something about the heat that sometimes when fishing is slow, like getting to what you said, it can almost get frustrating.
Yeah, it's
right?
terrible.
Because it's just like, I don't know, it's just so much, and then when they're not biting, it's hard to like keep focused sometimes.
Yeah. And then, so like for us, June and July are not even the hottest. August is the hottest month out here.
Yeah.
But we come from going like 70 degrees to like 100 fast.
Yeah.
So just getting used to the heat is a big problem.
For sure. So, what happens with the fish this time of the year is that water temp warms, they kind of move through spawn. Depending on where you are in the country, those fish are either going to be like a solid post spawn where they might be aggressive and wolf packing up and super hungry. As you move down south and into some of the hotter areas, they're past that even, and they're into more of just like, hot temperatures, summer, and they tend to just kind of have smaller windows, I would say, of activity, right? And that window is going to shift based on so many different variables, right? So depending on what you guys are fishing, that variable could be something like current. So like you fish a river
Yes.
a lot, you fish lakes that are generating power a lot, right? Would you both agree that current is the #1 driving factor in the summer of getting bit or not?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay, so keep that in mind, guys. It's not always like, well, I'm gonna wake up first thing in the morning and I'm gonna go catch them. And if they don't bite the first 2 hours, then it must suck.
Yeah.
That bite window might be at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, or the hottest time of the day, or maybe it's in the evening. So you have to pay attention to flows. If you guys are fishing still water, something like a pond or maybe a natural lake, then things like moon phase can have a big effect on fish in the summer. So pay attention to, like, as the moon's setting, as the moon's rising, these kinds of things can really help you dial in the little bite window so that you're making sure that you're fishing during the best time of the day. Because if you're fishing during the day, there's like 16 hours of sunlight now.
Yeah.
Right? So, you know, you want to make sure that, you know, you're not killing yourself out there for 16 hours to see when the window is. Pick a time and try to be fairly strategic about it.
Yeah.
When you get bit, pay attention to what it was and see if that's something you can repeat. Is that how you kind of approach it?
Yeah. So you get out there, you got to figure out like what's going to be the best time for me to get bit, and it might be in that hottest part of the day, depending on, you know the lake that you're fishing at, you know the tendencies of the fish and stuff like that. So you just got to figure out like, hey, this is when I got to go.
Right. Yeah. Now, with all that said, even though it can be a challenging time of the year to catch them, are you okay over there?
I'm fucking bleeding.
Did you just
You okay?
fucking knuckle punching people or what?
I don't know. I might have hit a
Don't
peg.
piss off
Richards.
Griff. Yeah. All right, just don't get any of that HIV on me. You usually don't have to overly finesse this time of the year. Now you certainly can. This is a great time of the year to do it. So if
Yeah.
you're a super finessey guy, you're living in your dreamland right now.
Yeah.
But if you like to power fish, you like to fish big, you like to fish fast, this is still the time of the year that all works really, really well. And that kind of goes into, I think both of those things are going into play with our selections.
Yep.
Okay, so let's jump into it. Do you want to start? You want me to start?
Go ahead.
Okay, while you nurse your wound, whatever you have going on over here.
Pegs.
All right,
That's the second time in a week that pegs made me bleed.
well, you need to be careful. Yeah, you signed the waiver, right?
You suck.
No.
As the store gets more and more congested, pegs get closer and closer.
Fuck, dude.
Yeah.
It's like sharks
Pegs
to a
get
beach.
Get a bit.
Jeff literally, he used to have all this big space behind him. There's literally this much space between a display and pegs and the camera.
If that.
So Jeff's literally the only person in here that can squeeze into that little space.
Yeah.
Yeah, small
Luckily,
little
he's
guy
Gotta be,
that doesn't
gotta be
drink beer
fit to work here.
or a bum. Non-beer drinking bum. Let's
Yeah.
talk about lures. All right, I'm a huge fan of Topwater. So anytime we basically get past winter, Topwater is usually the first place that I want to start. Now, it's not always the best idea, but it's always the funnest idea to me. So I would rather go out and get, half the bites on Topwater that I could get on a worm, because I just enjoy this more. And I find that if I get my timing down, I figure out kind of where they're positioned, the easiest way to figure them out is find the food. So this time of the year, they have one thing in mind, and that's food. So if you find areas that have a lot of bait, have a lot of craws, whatever it is that they're eating, the fish are probably going to be in that area. So if you're just starting off, look for areas with birds. You could see maybe bait flickering. You could use your graphs and your sonar to figure out where they are, and then those are going to be your high percentage spots. And usually anytime they're around bait, if you find the right window, they're going to be crushing them. And a lot of times in the summer, they could be offshore, so they crush them on the surface. Right? So if they're shallow, they want to crush them on the bank. If they're offshore, they want to push them up and crush them on the surface. And a walking bait is just the best way for me to catch them. So for me, I'm a huge fan of Kicknockers. This is usually where I start. Either a full size or a pup, depending on the size of the bait. So if the bait's really small, if they're eating a lot of little fry, tiny shad, then I'll go to the pup. If they're eating larger, full size stuff, or maybe they're offshore and I just need a bigger presence, then I'll go to the full-size Kicknocker. So this is usually my starting point. Now, if they get really specific, really picky, I'm not afraid to downsize into a small Topwater this time of the year. So this is kind of the only time of the year that I will downsize into this, but something like a duo pencil, either 65 or 85, a Sammy 65, a little Shower Blow 777, something that's in this smaller profile that I can move real fast to where it's hard for them to really tell what size it is, because I literally just want to twitch this thing and move it and have it really fast walk. Can be incredibly effective when they're kind of in open water eating little micro bait. And a lot of times you'll see big, huge wolf packs of big ones, and they're eating like literally like fingernail size stuff. And it's one of the most frustrating things because they get so keyed in. When you downsize to little baits like this, it can be really good. And of course, if you guys live somewhere where it's grassy, then you may not be able to throw all these treble hooks. So a frog might be the better option for a walking bait for you. So I'll do a frog if I'm fishing like a river system where there's mats or, you know, heavy vegetation. Ponds, this would be something that I would start with. Bigger lakes, reservoirs, more of those walking topwater baits that we just talked with. So there you go. Bait number one for me, and probably where I spend 90% of my day, every day, walking topwater.
Hell yeah.
What you got there, guy? What would you like?
All right, for me, it's almost exactly the same thing.
Okay.
But I'm just gonna stay small.
Okay.
And I like to throw a popper.
Cool.
All right, so it's the same thing. You're gonna go find that bait. The bait's real small right now. Shad spawn's over. I think the gizzards are just going right now. So there's a lot of small bait in the water, and I want a walking bait that's gonna toss a lot of water. Keep the top of the water column broken.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So every time I walk it, it's gonna toss water this way and toss water
And when
that
you're
way.
saying toss, you're talking about almost like the spitting and the chugging?
Yeah.
Do you think when that happens, like when it pops and it chugs and all those little water droplets fall, do you think that's giving the illusion those are small little
Yes.
fry?
In my eyes, I feel like every time the water hits, they hear the bait and they look up and there's just flickering going on the top, and they're not super focused yet. So when they get up there, there's only one thing sitting there, so they're just gonna hit it.
Got it.
Like they got their mind made up, right?
Yeah.
So I love to throw a popper. Pop Max is probably one of my favorite poppers to throw. And then this Shimano Flash Boost has been part of my lineup now too. This one's
Interesting.
pretty sick because it has that little flickering.
Yeah.
So it continues to kind of like shake and vibrate. I'm not too sure if they can see the flickering on there, but it does have that. It does have that little vibration in there.
Okay.
It's keeping the
So
bait
kind of
there.
similar to like that pulse cod.
Yes.
You can feel it vibrate as that flash boost is moving.
less sound, same vibration.
Interesting.
Right.
Okay.
And then if I need a popper that's not that I don't want to walk and I just want to straight pop it.
Yep.
These two right here, the Pop X and the Louder, are probably my top two choices right there.
So how do you know if you want something to just straight pop versus walk?
I think the aggressiveness of the fish are going to tell me what they want. I'm going to always start with a walker.
So like say you start with a Pop Max.
Yeah.
Right? So you're using the Pop Max more as a walking bait.
Yes.
Less as a straight popping.
Yes.
What is telling you you need to change from that to say the Louder or the Pop X?
The fish are going to tell me. If I see them, I'm getting a couple bites, but they're not really like aggressively smashing it. I'm just going to, these are downsized to me. I'm going to downsize and I'm just going to pop it so I can leave it in place a little bit longer. Just pop it, get that loud bloop, and then the Louder has this huge bubble. It creates a huge bubble, so it bloop, just has this sound, and then it just sprays water everywhere.
Got it.
So, and then it just sits in place.
Yeah, and it gives them the target.
Yeah.
Sick. All right, so topwater for you too.
Yes.
All right, there you go, Jeff. End of video.
Oh, okay.
Oh, maybe I guess we'll keep going.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, number two for me is also a topwater bait,
Okay.
but it's a different topwater bait. Now, in complete transparency,
Okay.
Griff and Jeff are responsible for me even getting into these.
Mm.
Okay, so I got into these a few years back, and I thought it was kind of lame, and I kind of got out of them. And then recently, my eyes have been opened to where they actually have a lot of use and can actually be a tool that's very beneficial. So, thank you, Luis. If you're listening, you suck. He gave me the wrong hooks. A crawler. Okay. Now I know you would never think to hear me talk about this, but I've been throwing these for, I don't know, 3-4 days a week over the last several weeks now, and I find that it's a really fun tool. Now, this is definitely not something that's going to replace a walking bait. If I'm fishing a big reservoir, I'm trying to cover a lot of water, this is not the bait.
Like an actual body
Like
of
an
water.
actual real place.
Yeah.
I'm throwing a walking bait.
Smart.
I'm throwing a Kicknocker.
Right.
I'm throwing a normal thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So I haven't got to there yet, right?
Yeah.
But if I'm fishing a really small area or an area, so this could be like a pond, okay? It could be an inner city place like where I've been fishing a lot, or it could be an area that maybe you're really wanting to pick apart and go slowly and really make sure that you're maximizing every cast. I find that a crawler has an amazing ability to fish very slow, and it's big enough to where it's drawing attention, but it's, if you get the right one, it's also not overly intimidating. So if those fish are in shallow water and they're really kind of staying on their area, whether it's a rock, a tree, a grass pile, whatever, and they're not actively chasing like a walking bait, this can be a great alternative because it's basically hovering in their face and staying right there and just kind of driving them crazy.
Yeah.
So
It's pure anger.
It's anger. And the bite is 100% the coolest bite.
Yeah.
Yeah, way better than any other bite. So these are the ones I've been playing with. Now I know you're a huge fan of the I-Wing and you keep giving me, you know, shit because I'd be catching twice as many on the I-Wing. But these are the ones that I've been having success with. This is the Deps NZ Crawler. And this is the one that recently I've been playing with a lot, which is the Deka Dodge. Now, I included this in a bento a couple months back, and I challenged a lot of you guys to try it. I found a few little tweaks that work really good. Now, at first, when we started bringing these in, it just seems so massive, right? It literally is just in this huge box, and it comes with these huge, ginormous feathered trebles on it. So what I've done is I've just been paying attention to a lot of the guys in Japan and paying attention to a lot of the guys here in the shop, like Louise and Griff, that are much better crawler fishermen than I am, and just trying to implement some of their ideas. And there's the Deka Dodge. Like, it's not that big. So I've just taken that front feather off. I'm sure there's a time when using that front feather would be good, but for me, this is like the perfect size. I mean, it's just a hand size.
It's like a small gill.
It's not even that big. So, I mean, it casts easy, but the great thing about a crawler is that if you fish it just super, super slow, it's just super tantalizing there. And this gets articulated, right? So it's moving the opposite direction. You get the flash from the wings, but then the profile is literally only, what, 4 inches? Mm-hmm. It's not that big. And the strikes are violent. So, where I would implement this, shallow water fish that are very specific to targets. So that's, I think, going to be your best shot if they're set up in a current seam, if they're set up right next to a rock, if they're sitting on a bush, a specific grass pile, and you don't want to fish too fast. Like a buzz bait, a walking bait, a lot of times just go too fast, right? And it's very easy for them to let it go by. This is something that literally I can just crawl at this speed, and it's still big enough and loud enough to draw their attention, but it's hovering in their face long enough to where they almost have to eat it.
Yep.
Okay, so there you go. Bait number 2 for me. It's a fun new one, and I want a lot of you guys that have been maybe a little hesitant to throw it like I've been, to maybe commit to it and try it and see if you can understand it. It's a crawler.
Wow.
Are you proud of me?
Wow.
Are you proud of me? I'm finding some fun in life.
Oh, Benny's growing up.
I know. All right, what you got for your next bait, sir?
All right, so again, I'm gonna go Topwater, and
Same.
I'm gonna go slow.
Okay.
So the Deps Spiral Minnow specifically for me is a good one, because this one I can fish morning or evening, and they're on a wake bait bite.
Yeah, so let me give you a little back story. So Griff is like the wake bait master. Like, he's literally probably sold more gongs than anybody in the history of man. He throws every wake bait there is. He loves wake baits. Dude, the man even fishes wake baits in 100 feet of water for stripers on weighted down.
Yeah.
Like, he throws a wake bait literally everywhere. In the last month, he can't stop talking about this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, like literally every day he's like, oh man, this is amazing.
Yeah,
so,
the Spiral Minnow, which we've had here forever, I just really haven't wanted to throw it. And then finally I picked one up and I casted it, and I think my third cast in I caught like a 6. And I was like,
well, it's hard not to like a bait when that happens.
Yeah. And I was trying to figure out why. So every time I get a new bait, the why is very important to me, right? That's how I feel like you get stuck on certain things. Like, you throw a glide bait and you get bit, and you're like, why did he want that? So
that's a good way of breaking it down.
Yeah. So I've been throwing it, just trying to figure it out. It's shad shaped. It's bigger than the normal size baits of this style, right? It's loud. It's super loud. It has this giant rattle in there, and it makes a lot of noise, and it moves fast. No matter what pace you're reeling it in, it moves quick.
Yeah.
Right? So you get that gargle from the prop in the back.
So for people that don't know this bait, this is basically a wake bait. Even though it looks like a crank down, when you get it dialed, basically this part of the bait is at the surface of the water. So this is churning while the bait's kind of moving side to side, waking.
Yeah. Yeah, so for me, I like to fish a lot slower when I'm throwing the wake baits. So the crawler, you know, I love the crawler. I've been throwing the crawler for a while, and I love it because you can fish it slow. But now I can get something that's more bite-sized, and I can fish it just as slow, and it's shad shaped. So when they're seeing it, they're seeing that shad profile from below, right? Instead of a big bulbous profile, they're seeing that. And it's been getting me a ton of bites. I've been fishing it for about the last year. I think last summer was the first time I threw it, but over the last couple weeks I've been throwing it a ton, and it's an amazing bait. I really, really like it.
Do you find that there are certain areas where this style wake is a better option than, say, something like a Joker or a Rat or even like a crawler style? Or when are you choosing this over some of the other wakes?
So this one for me is really great in low light, not
Okay.
dark.
Okay.
So the other baits, like a PB Rat, I don't think I've ever thrown a PB Rat during the day.
So you love it like black, dark.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is more visible.
Yep.
Okay.
So once they're start looking up early in the morning, early evening, this is the first bait that's gonna go on there. And then, dude, I could throw this in one of my spots and catch 20 fish before the sun goes down, and then I can switch to something else to catch more.
Yeah.
Super fun bait. And again, it's something about wake baits that when they hit it, they want to destroy it. It's never just like a subtle suck down.
Yeah.
It's just like pure
It's
violence.
almost like a topwater bait. They most of the time I'd say they suck. Just kind of suck it down. And it's like something about a wake bait. They're literally destroying it.
Yeah.
Like what you said. It is a very different bite most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's super
Great.
fun. And this one's heavy, so this one casts a mile. It has like that weight transfer in there. It's not amazing. It only moves about an inch,
Yeah.
but it still casts a mile. And then you get a ton of noise out of it.
And you're throwing it like on 18, 20 pounds, something like that? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, straight fluoro,
Yep.
16 to 20.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Cool. All right. Staying on top. It's really all you need to do.
that's it.
Yeah. Unless they're deep. Okay. That brings me to bait number 3 for me, and that is a deep crank. Okay, so I want to catch them on topwater, and if they're not going to eat topwater, then I'm usually going to switch to a crank. This is usually my next place to go. Now, I brought several different cranks because it's really important. A lot of times we talk about deep cranks, and I see the same comments, or I hear a lot of the same thing, like, oh, well, that doesn't apply to me, I fish from shore. Or that doesn't apply to me, I fish ponds, I don't have 30 feet of water. So deep cranks is all gonna be relative to the body of water that you're at and what you're capable of reaching, right? So if I'm fishing a big reservoir, for instance, from a boat, then a deep crank is gonna be something like a Big M 7.5, a 10XD, OSP Blitz Magnum EXDR, something that's gonna get down 25, 30 feet. That's deep cranking for me. But if you live somewhere like, say, I don't know, maybe one of the northern lakes where deep water is 10 to 15 feet, right? Then something like a Blitz Max DR is going to be deep cranking, right? If you're fishing from shore or you're fishing a lake that's really shallow, something like a Blitz DR might be good. Like I know a lot of our guys here that run ponds every night, you know, the Blitz DR is a staple because it's like a, you know, 8 to 10 foot diver. So you could be from the shore and still get it out there and grind a point. You can make a parallel cast and fish, you know, not the bank, but that next little step off. Could be a great one. Or maybe you guys are fishing super shallow, even something like a square bill, like an Evoke. They come in a 2.0, a 3.0, a 4.0, those are meters. So, you know, maybe 6 feet is deep. So adjust your depth to, you know, the lip and the bait that gets down. But the idea behind a deep crank is just that a lot of times when those fish are shallow, they're up and they're trying to feed. And when they're not feeding, they will kind of move off to a spot where they can chill. And that might be a rock pile in 25 feet of water in a big lake. That might be a little ditch in 7 feet of water in a pond. It might just be a little current seam in a river system. It's somewhere where they can just move off and kind of be lethargic. The reason why I love a crank is because a crank is gonna draw that reaction strike better than any bait I know of, because it's moving so fast, it's banging around. If you get it close enough, a lot of times they just react to it and put it in their mouth without thinking through it. A lot of times with a crawler, with a popper, even a walking bait, the thing's moving and they kind of have to be in some kind of feeding mode, right? Whereas this is something that literally you can just grind. They might have no interest to eat anything ever again, and all of a sudden something comes right at their face and like, fuck it, and they just put it in their mouth and you got them.
Gotta have it.
Right? So that's where I switch to a crank. When it just starts getting kind of shitty and it's slow and it's hot and we're starting to get that little frustration, I think a crank is the best way to get them. And again, just vary the size and the depth to where you are fishing, whether it's shore, pond, shallow lake, deep lake, big lake, whatever. Okay, so there you go. Number 3 for me is a deep crank.
So for me, I'm the same way. Once the bite starts to slow down, I'm going to look somewhere else, right? And I'm just going to go find cover.
Okay.
Right? I'm going to look for cover. Hopefully I can find like some trees, some big rock, not necessarily chunk rock, but like big rock piles or something like that. And I'm going to throw a backlight. Right? So I'm going to fish it slow. You know, you're going to hook it, you're going to chuck it in there, and you're just going to let them glide into the spot. A couple pops up, let it go, and reel in and recast.
Okay.
Right? I just want something that's going to kind of work its way through the cover, but not necessarily pendulum back towards me. Right? I'm trying to work specific, like say I'm fishing a tree, I want to work that tree. I want it to hit every branch and then kind of work its way through, and then just kind of slither it back up to me and let it do it again.
Okay.
2 or 3 times, reel it in and recast.
Is this still relatively shallow? Are you fishing this out deeper? What is your depth?
So I'm gonna fish between like bank and 15 feet.
Okay.
Depending on where the cover is. Like you have those lanes where the cover's off a little bit. That's where I'm gonna do it. These 3 for me are the slowest gliders.
And that's what you want this time of the year. And is that why you're choosing a back glide instead of just flip?
Yes.
So you want it to be slow?
Yeah, I want it to be slow and kind of just glide its way through.
Okay.
It gives the fish a lot of time to track it. They see it, they see it bang on a tree. They're not doing a ton of moving down there. Like these tentacles on these things, there's not a lot of ridges, so there's not a ton of movement. It's more of a vibration on it, right? Okay. But it gives the fish time to track it, and then as it's going down, it looks like it's trying to escape a little bit, and then boom, they just hit it. So the back glide is definitely in my arsenal, and these are my top 3 favorites.
So it's a Gancraft, that's the bomb slide.
Yep.
The OSP Dolive Shot.
Yep.
And then the Deps Bullslide.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Super sick.
Also a fun way to get them because you're still relatively heavy rod, heavy line.
Yep.
You're still kind of power fishing even though you've slowed it down.
Yep.
Cool.
And this one is new to us. We haven't had this in the shop very much.
No, it's a relatively newcomer to the back glide market.
Yeah.
Right?
But it gets a ton of bites.
It does.
Yeah. It's a really good one.
So how do you choose between the bomb slide, the Deps, the OSP? Like, what is the decision-making process in how you're choosing or why you're switching from one to the other?
All right. So the bull slide is the slowest one.
Okay.
When I want to hang it, it's also the fattest one. So it's going to get through like sparse cover real easy.
Okay.
Right? And then when I want to go into more cover, the Dolive Shot will get through anything. This thing will sneak into the smallest crevices on the lake.
And that's because of the shape of it.
Yeah.
So it's just an easy one to kind of squeeze through a little hole. If it finds a way, it'll get to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then it's your job to get the fish back through that
right,
hole,
good luck. Yeah.
But if it's a stick, you can do it.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
And then the bomb slide is the most crawl looking one. It looks like a crawl.
Yeah.
And they did a really good job of designing it. When I know they're on the crawl bite, but they're behind these trees or they're tucked under something, I can just flip that in there and I can get it to them.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right, cool. That's a good number 3.
Yeah.
All right, and finally number 4 for me, Jeff. So getting back to deep water. Sometimes, ideally, like kind of what we talked about with Topwater is I want to try to find active fish, right? Well, sometimes the fish just aren't shallow enough to really respond to topwater. They're offshore, they're sitting on a hump, they're sitting off points, they're sitting in ditches, but they're still aggressive. They're still active. They're just actively feeding deep. whether it's on craws, it could be gobies, it could be bait, right? So for me, the deep crank is a great way to get them when they're lethargic, but when they're active down there, the easiest way for me and the way I enjoy catching them the most is on a soft plastic, and I love free rig the Dolive Beaver.
It's hard to beat.
I've found that the Dolive Beaver works everywhere in the country. Can't really say world yet because I've only thrown it in a couple of countries, but everywhere in this country and that country above us, it works great. It's just one of those baits where if you're fishing, you know, 10 to 20 feet, you can throw a 1/4 ounce. If you're fishing 20 to 30 feet, you can throw a 3/8 ounce. If you're fishing 30 to 50 feet, you can throw a 1/2 ounce. But the bait's the same. You change your weight really quick, get it down there. You can fish it fast and slow, which is amazing. So that weight falls, it hits, and all of a sudden this thing is down there and it's dolphin kicking down. And then when the weight hits, it just has that quick little pause, right? So they're seeing the weight, they're seeing that bait flick, and then all of a sudden it just has this little pause, and it pauses right in front of their face, and they eat it. So, I mean, this is just the no-brainer. I don't want to do this. I want to do that stuff, right? I want to fish fast, heavy line, heavy rods. But the nice thing is I pretty much always have like a wind buster and a free rig rigged up, and I know that if like I'm running a bank, it's just not happen, I see like a reef or a point or something, dude, if I fire over on a free rig and thunk, it gets bit when it sinks into 20 feet, I know I can just repeat that and hit everything in that zone and catch them. To keep this really simple for you guys, okay, you guys can free rig the 4-inch, you can free rig the 3-inch, you can do all kinds of stuff, whatever you want. I find the 3.5 to be the most universal. Largemouth, smallmouth, north, south, everywhere I go, they eat this. These are my starting points 100% of the time. Okay, now they make a ton of colors, and there's a lot of really good colors. Okay, we make one too, we call Fred. It's green pumpkin, purple copper flake.
Fred.
Just to keep things simple, you're gonna need a green pumpkin, and you're gonna need, this is called ghost shrimp. This is my other one that's amazing. Between these two, you've got kind of a dark one, you've got kind of a lighter one. Okay, if I'm fishing anywhere where they feed on gobies more than craws, this one. Okay, if I'm fishing somewhere they feed on craws more than anything else, something green pumpkin. And then from there, I adjust based on what the fish are telling me. Sometimes they want flake, so I might go to, you know, Tanaga or Fred or sprayed grass. Sometimes the water is just really funky. I might go to like a black color, right, or a black and red or something like that. But day in and day out, if I've got these two colors, I know one of these is gonna get me bit. Right? So that's the easiest way to do it. It's a no-brainer. I know if you guys haven't implemented the free rig yet, this is the one you want to implement. There you go. Number 4 for me. I can pretty much take a Topwater and free rig and a crank anywhere and catch them.
Catch a ton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Is this really your number 4?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sick.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's happening, but in typical Griff fashion, I'm very interested.
Well, it's very interesting that we're both ending with the wind buster, right? So that means the bite's slow.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So when I really need to slow down, I'm gonna throw a Carolina rig.
Oh.
Right?
I'm sorry.
But I'm gonna throw a Finesse Carolina rig. Yeah, it's terrible.
That's even worse.
But I'm gonna tie on a whip sinker.
Okay.
And I'm gonna tie on a little sweeper.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
This is when I'm going. Yeah. Trust me, I don't want to do this either, but sometimes you have to. The little sweeper is a great one for like 10 to 30 foot of water.
Okay.
And fishing downhill.
Okay.
I love fishing it downhill. When the fish are like on those like ledge walls and stuff like that.
Yep.
I can run this. The reason why I like to run this one is because this doesn't get caught up as much.
Okay.
And we have a ton of structure and cover out there to just catch stuff.
Yeah. So you like this more than like a sliding traditional Carolina rig weight, whether it be a bullet weight or a barrel sinker or something like that. You like this style for coming through the rocks more.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's small. It's not super heavy.
Yep.
So you can manage it over stuff and stuff like that. It's not going to jam itself in things. The little sweeper, this bait doesn't have a ton of action, but it has a ton of vibration in that tail. So I'll cast it out and I'll go so slow, just dragging it downhill. Drag it down, drag, crank it down, and then drag it, But I've been playing with this for like the last, I don't know, since we got these in. I watched a video on the Raid YouTube, and that's what they were doing. I was like, oh, let me try it out. And it's getting bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's terribly slow. It's boring, but I mean.
But if you need to get bit, and so often we make decisions in a day like, I know I need to downsize or finesse, but I'd rather go home.
Right.
Or I know if I'm going to get bit today, I have to downsize and finesse. So these are decisions that we're making.
Yeah.
And, you know, Jeff's smiling and pointing at me like, yeah, I'm going home before I throw finesse. But, I mean, that's also spoken as somebody who has the luxury of fishing a lot.
Yeah.
Right? So a lot of times, like, you don't have that luxury. A lot of times, like, it's your one day a month that you fish.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And if fishing sucks, fishing sucks. If the weather sucks, if the moon phase is wrong, if whatever, it is what it is. You have to figure it out. Or maybe you're tournament fishing.
Yeah.
And it sucks ass, but weigh-in's not till 3. And you're not gonna be like, well, fuck it, I'm going home. Like, you gotta figure out how to catch a fish, right? These are ways that may not be the most fun, but can be really useful. And this isn't something that a lot of guys are doing.
Yeah.
A lot of guys just throw a drop shot and drag it around.
Yeah.
This is something that's different.
Yeah, it's super productive too. Like, I feel like I would get more bites on this than a drop shot, just because the weight sits low, and every time you move this bait, you know, you bounce it against a rock, it's gonna kind of go up. It's semi buoyant, right? And then yeah, these baits have these fins, these stabilizing fins, to where it's not really gonna roll a lot.
Hold anything.
So it has these stabilizing fins. It's not going to do a ton of rolling. These are going to add a little bit of action to it, but not a ton. All that action is just going to be in the tail. It's got this boot style tail on it. When you run it in the tank, you can't even see it moving, but you know it's moving, right?
Yeah.
Right now, a lot of our thread fins are this size. So we had shad spawn about, 10 days ago. It ended, so they're going to be growing, and they're going to get around this size, and a lot of bass fry are around this size.
Yep.
So.
And when you look at little fry and minnows that are 1 inch, 2 inch long, they're not moving like this.
Yeah.
Right? You don't see them moving either. It's super tight. I mean, if they kick their tail super hard, it's literally like that.
Yep.
So you're basically, this is like super finesse, super imitation to what they're actually seeing down there.
Yeah, you're mimicking the bait that's down there. It can be fun. When you're on the bite, it's fun. Right?
Catching fish is fun.
Yeah, when you're on
right?
the bite, it's fun.
Yeah, if you got to go 3 hours before catching a fish, I've probably just let myself die of dehydration.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a fun way to do it. Everybody knows I love the whip sinker, right? I love sinking things down.
Mr. Gong whip sinker guy.
Yeah, I love sinking things down. It's a great sinker because you don't get a ton of line. You don't get a ton of line twist. It gets
when you look
there.
at new lures, do you just think about sinking it down?
Yes.
Like the first thing that comes to your mind is, I want to send this down to the bottom.
Have you done that with a crawler, like on a deep tracer?
No, I just think it would rip my arm off if I try to fish a crawler down there.
What a pussy. Sounds like a 1v1.
Deep
underwater
tracer
crawler video.
I've put a deep tracer on a lot of things, but
you like sending stuff down to the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Different mindsets.
It's fun.
I love it. Yeah.
It's super fun, dude.
Is there a specific size whip sinker for that?
I only use a 7 gram.
Only 7.
Yeah, because I'm trying to get down to like 30 feet.
How long would that take with the 7 gram?
I mean, it's a 1/4 ounce, so I mean, think if you're throwing a drop shot on a 1/4 ounce weight, you can fish that pretty quick down to 30
But I'm
feet.
not starting in 30. I'm casting as shallow as I can, and I'm working it down,
dragging it down.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So 7 grams still going to maintain
bottom
enough contact. It goes anything lighter than that, you're going to have a hard time knowing if you're really on the bottom or not.
Yes.
Yeah. So that makes sense. All right. Interesting number 4 for you, sir.
Yeah.
Jeff's
I'm throwing
gonna
it on the wind buster.
Jeff's gonna take this out right now and throw it.
Yeah. Am I?
He's gonna attach one of these to a mother chaser.
Little follow-up bait.
Yeah.
Put behind it.
Just put one on each hook.
Little trailer.
All right, guys, that is a wrap. There are 4 baits from each of us. I was gonna say similar, but yet different.
We kind of followed the same path. That's kind of
We
strange.
did, yeah, very similar, but slight different tweaks. So hopefully that will help shed some light, at least to our mindsets if you guys are struggling this time of the year to get a starting point and catch fish. But of course, if you guys have other things that we didn't mention that are working for you guys, we would love for you to post it down below, because the idea is collectively as a group for everybody to just share as much info as possible so we can all catch as many fish as possible. So the biggest thing is try not to die of the heat and have a good time. Right? So if you guys have questions on anything that we covered, the baits, techniques, whatever, drop down below and Griff or myself will get an answer to you. Jeff will leave links to everything if you want to check anything out closer. And on behalf of myself and Griff and the bum Jeff over there who doesn't drink any beer, and everybody here at the Hookup Tackle Guys, thank you for giving us time to watch these videos. Thank you for giving us feedback. Thank you for your business support. Enjoy the summer. Okay, it's my favorite time of the year. I love being hot. I can handle it. I know what to do when it's 122. I don't know what to do when it's 42.
Yeah.
Except whine like a little baby.
Like a bitch.
Yeah, okay, or that. So enjoy, my friends. Peace. We'll see you soon. Later.